he's somebody who knows how to, he knows the importance of blocking. You're not going to get a player who doesn't want to do that. They had 2,000-yard rushers at Penn State last year, and he's a big part of that. But he's also a versatile chess piece. You can play in the slot. You can line him up out wide. You can put him wherever you want.
Hallis tomorrow for media availability. You were saying it's the assistants tomorrow.
Yeah, coordinators and assistants. So it'll be the first chance that we get to hear from Antoine Randall L.
That's a good one.
Al Harris,
JT Barrett, of course.
Eric Public Bieniemy.
Yep. So, I mean, it's an exciting time to get to put some of those faces with names and kind of go through the quiet part of the offseason and the lead up to the draft, because there will be times next week where we get to talk with Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson about the strategy going in and then how things play out in round one. But I've really needed this draft to get here. It has been the lead up time the last couple of weeks, and not specifically around the Bears, but all of the quarterback talk and Shedeur Sanders and the private workout, and other Giants really serious about drafting a quarterback at 3. The Bears didn't deal with this last year when they were drafting that high because it was all said and done. So I think we'll be good to not have to go through scenarios of what they do at number 10.
I'm ready for next Thursday. Yeah. I agree with you. And now you've got full 7-round mocks, which is just impossible. And what's the point? It's hard after you get through the top 12. Even that's a tough exercise usually. If Jeanty's there, do you have a feeling that he's the pick?
It's hard if it's amazing how much my opinion on this has changed, because I remember talking to you guys about 2 months ago thinking, no way do they use a pick on a running back that high. But hearing Ben Johnson talk about the running back class and how he said there's different flavors of these guys, that you can get a high-end prospect at 10 potentially in Ashton Jeanty. You could also wait to get Omarion Hampton either later in the first round if you can trade back, or maybe even moving up from where they are at 39 and 41, or even somewhere else on day 2. If he's there, and what Ryan Poles had told us in Palm Beach, that there are so few blue prospects, but there's a lot of really good talent beyond the guys in the single digits that even you can find one of those players maybe a little bit later. I don't think you can find an Ashton Jeanty caliber player later. So if he's there and you're weighing offensive line versus somebody who can create a backfield akin to what they had in Detroit, I think you probably choose the running back. But I don't think he's going to be there.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I'm not convinced that the Saints are taking a quarterback at 9. Why not just commit to the rebuild?
And wait till next year?
If Derek Carr doesn't want to be there any longer, if he doesn't want the Kirk Cousins treatment, if
is that what's happening, by the way?
That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Look, he's doing car videos for his new Rolls Royce, so clearly his shoulder feels well enough to be driving around, not driving himself to the facility for voluntary off-season program activities. But I just don't buy that this all of a sudden just popped up and now his season's in risk of not happening in 2025.
A lot of smoke on Ty Warren to the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Versatile player, not just a traditional tight end. You can use him in a lot of different ways. I think even going back to the combine when he talked about, meeting with the Bears and that there would be an opportunity, I think they wanted to bring him in for, a top 30 visit or whatever. And he had a formal interview. I think that's what it was, if I remember correctly, back to when we were in Indianapolis and I was standing at his podium. I think that you can do a lot in an offense that is built on having 2 tight ends. Last year's was not. 12 personnel is important in a Ben Johnson offense. They had one of the highest usage rates of anybody in the NFL last year. He's somebody who knows how to, he knows the importance of blocking. You're not going to get a player who doesn't want to do that. They had 2,000-yard rushers at Penn State last year, and he's a big part of that. But he's also a versatile chess piece. You can play in the slot. You can line him up out wide. You can put him wherever you want and feel comfortable that he's going to make contributions in not only the run game as a blocker, but passing too. And I think it'll help Cole Kmet. I really do.
Is the Michigan tight end better than the Penn State tight end?
I think that Tyler Warren's the cream of the crop there.
Boy, they're going to
be interesting.
They might go. I mean, all the mocks now have them both going in the top 15, which is rare.
Rarity.
Yeah.
We were looking yesterday. You barely
first
find
time
an example.
since 1992
to have that many tight ends.
To have that many tight ends in the top 15.
Taken in the first 15. Johnny Mitchell and Derek Brown.
It's in the 90s, right? Early 90s?
1992.
1992.
And then the only time 3 tight ends went in the first round was 2002.
It's a rarity.
Different era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now when you are using these guys as hybrid receivers, I think that's maybe that's where it's trending towards. Obviously, these players like that are rare, and you're not going to find them all that often, especially with like a top 10, top 15 pick. So I don't think it'll become a trend, but because of how they're utilized in these spread offenses in college, I think the transitioning to the NFL, what teams envision for that type of position, it's not just, putting somebody in a box and expecting them to be your traditional tight end, that you can do a lot with them in the passing game.
What did you think of the Caleb Esquire article?
What's next, Rolling Stone? I mean, he went from GQ in college
Yeah,
to
that's right.
Esquire the year after his rookie season. The man shoots high in terms of the publications that he's a part of. And I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but I've seen a lot of comments about people upset that he admitted that he would go home and cry after losing games. I mean, what do you?
That's not a shocker.
I'm not surprised at all, but is it a bad thing?
No.
He was never showing that type of emotion during games.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the stuff that happened in the Minnesota game on the road where he was getting lit up by Jihad Ward and, looked like he was in a lot of pain, and a lot of people took liberties with that. I don't think that that's Caleb being like dramatic. I know some people do. I don't think that there was anything in that Esquire article that we didn't already know, because he had hinted just about how hard the losing was on him last year and that he had never lost that many games. I mean, heck, he didn't even know the full number until the feature reporter had to tell him, it was actually 12 losses that you had this year. But I thought it was really well done. It was cool to see a different side of him, too, with him being overseas for a big portion of the offseason in a place where you typically wouldn't expect an NFL quarterback. Usually these guys go to Cabo, not to, where was he at?
He was in Copenhagen.
Copenhagen,
Sounds like
Denmark.
it.
And
Copenhagen.
then, of course, hearing about the 888 Midas, his venture capital investment firm, it's clear that as a young quarterback who still has a lot to prove on the field, is starting to plan for the life off the field, which more of these guys are doing. They're trying to become businessmen before their careers end.
Yeah.
Typically, you don't see it this early on because they're conditioned to kind of be robotic. I mean, you don't hear Jaden Daniels talking about these sorts of things or any of the other rookie quarterbacks from last year, which I think is what makes Caleb different. And it is cool to get a look into how he operates when it's not just football all the time. And even, when he was in Denmark, he had still had his iPad and was watching film. And when he's trying to experience all these other things that were around him during the offseason.
What level of participation do they have up there? And how important is it with the new coaching staff to have as much buy-in as possible? I mean, I know Kyler Gordon, I guess, wasn't there last week because they were still negotiating, even though he was technically under contract for another year. But okay. What kind of level of participation through the voluntary program have they had?
It sounds like it's been pretty good. And I mean, you can look at their Instagram or their Twitter and see some of the photos that they've put out and try to, it's a game that we all play as reporters, trying to count how many guys are there that you can see. And it looks for the most part like the big names are there. I haven't seen any photos of Montez Sweat. He'd be the only one I'd have a question on just because we have not seen any sort of sign of him being there throughout the first couple. So you're saying they'd
probably put that out if he were there?
Maybe. I mean, you would think because he is a face of this team, but I wish they weren't voluntary because it becomes more of a story during the voluntary part of the offseason about who's not there versus who's there. But a change of events probably from last year was Jalen Johnson's there. And he told us last week it's about showing face, it's about, being present, showing respect to the new coaching staff because it's a brand new staff for everybody involved. And even as a veteran player who's now on his third staff, it's a good chance to get to, get all of the introductory stuff out during the introductory portion of the offseason. Don't wait. Because if you're waiting till, phase 3, that's a month that you could have already gotten to know these coaches and already gotten to know some of the new players that are there. And especially on defense, it's not like, using Jalen for an example, there's not anybody new in the secondary right now. But if you're up front on that defensive line, it'd be good to know Dio Denebo. It'd be good to know Grady Jarrett and to know some of the other players who are going to be affecting that pass rush. And, I mean, the whole defense can benefit from that just as much as any individual one position group.
Why no extension for Joe Thuney yet? Is it weird?
Why not one for Jonah Jackson either? I mean, it could just be a timing thing. Kyler Gordon was a priority, and Ryan Poles talked about that throughout the offseason. Even Kyler had heard the rhetoric around, how important this was to get it done for the organization. So I'm sure that that's along the to-do list for the offseason. But handle your own players first. I think that sends a message.
Okay.
This is Ryan Poles' first
draft pick. All right.
In 2022. And there's still time with Joe Thuney. I would not be surprised if something like that happens. Remember, most of these that Ryan Poles has done, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, have happened in July. So there's still time.
All right. Yeah, maybe it's an after the draft thing now that they got Kyler Gordon done. Focus on next week and move on from there. Any chance they add some draft picks here? Any chance they say they sit there at 10 and they're like, you know what? Now, it's going to take somebody wanting to come up, and the common theme now seems to be, this draft isn't quite good enough.
I think it's
for somebody to want to come up.
But for the top 10,
yeah,
because the teams that you'd be looking at to trade out of those spots potentially, and anybody to move up would be going after Shador or Jackson Dart for the quarterback. So if the Giants end up taking a quarterback at 3, and then there's one more spot, if the Saints don't take a quarterback there, the Bears aren't really in position to help anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're there at 10. I think it's going to be really difficult
sort
for
of
them
no man's
to move.
Land.
Yeah, for them to move anybody in the top 10 that isn't in that prime quarterback spot. I think it's going to be difficult, most notably for a team like the Bears, because everybody else in front of them has a path towards a quarterback if they want one. The Bears to really where Chicago is all the way to the Steelers at 21. There's no. Who are you moving up for?
Who are you moving up for? It's a good point. Are you guys doing the show next week, the ESPN show that they always do with all the insiders?
Yeah, our mock draft.
The mock draft.
Yeah, we'll pick on Friday, so we'll do our live draft, and then I believe
that's this Friday.
This coming Friday.
Okay, all right.
So
this Friday.
we'll be on the clock at 10, and
you're not allowed to say who you're going to mock, are you?
We don't know yet. We do a live draft starting noon on Friday, and then it goes till 2, and then we all shoot our videos, and then they go on the draft special. I think that's Tuesday next week.
Okay.
So it's always a fun experiment.
Oh, so you shoot it on Friday, but it airs
on Tuesday. I got both of my picks right last year, though.
You did?
I got Caleb Wright, which was not hard to do.
That was an easy one.
And then I got Rome. I got Rome at 9, which was also not that difficult when you think about where the other teams, we knew Arizona was taking Marvin Harrison Jr. and then Malik Neighbors going
Ryan
to the
Poles
Giants.
Almost screwed it up for you by trying to draft off.
He did, and then Ian Cunningham had to talk him out of it.
Settle him down.
Yeah. So, but I've gotten it right one other time. When I was in Minnesota, I got Christian Darrisaw right.
Yeah.
Even though they traded back, I still got him right where they were initially picking.
There you go.
That was a fun one.
But do they not want you to say right now who you would mock if Ashton Jeanty were there and Ty Warren were there? Would they not want you to say?
I don't think they care one way
or
the other.
Who would you say?
So just from some exercises I've done, because I did a mock draft for ESPN Radio the other night, and I ended up picking Shamar Stewart.
Oh, really?
Because my logic for that was, there's no trades allowed in these, so it makes it a little difficult. Jeanty was gone. Tyler Warren was gone. Will Campbell was gone.
Tyler Warren was gone?
Yep.
Wow.
I think he went to the Jets, I want to say.
Campbell's going to be gone, right? I mean,
By
for a little
6,
while there,
maybe.
it looked like he was falling, and now it seems like, no, he's not going to fall.
And if they want a left tackle, it's the hard part about trading back. If they want Kelvin Banks Jr., do you take him at 10 or do you try to go a little bit further back? But it's hard. Yeah. It's a hard exercise. So I figured Ryan Poles has told us he loves pass rushers.
Shamar Stewart.
It would not be the worst. I mean, I know some people are Cap was really hoping that Mason Graham's going to slip to 10. I think Shea was trying to put that out into the ether. I don't know if that's going to happen.
I don't think so.
But, I mean, unless teams get spooked by the lack of production and really the size, because he is undersized for a defensive tackle. They already have an undersized defensive tackle that they signed a month ago. So we'll see.
Who's older, too.
Yeah.
But all right. We can't wait. Well, are you going to be in Green Bay? You're going to be here.
I'll be here.
Yeah, you'll be here. You gotta be in
everybody
Dallas.
asks about that.
Because but you guys have
it's
to
a
be
TV thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes your pick is not there. Darnell Wright was not there 2 years ago.
Right.
Can you imagine going and then the player that your team drafts is not there?
Yeah, you have to be here. There's too much going on in Dallas. All right, busy time. We appreciate it. Thank you for the update as always. Anything we missed?
No, I mean, I feel like we covered everything. I'm just ready to see what the Giants end up doing because they're my theory on all of that about why the workouts are with Jalen Milroe and Tyler Shock and obviously Shador happening so late. I think there's a split mindset.
In the building?
I do.
It kind of feels like it. Why else would you be going back a week before?
And I know that there's been this consensus that whoever the Cleveland Browns don't take at 2 goes to you at 3, and you'd take, top defensive player available. Let's not forget that Joe Shane and Brian Dable are fighting for their jobs right now. You need as many bites at the quarterback apple, and it buys you time if you draft this guy and you play him a little bit in year 1 towards the end of the season. it buys you at least a year, I think.
I get it's dangerous when you start doing things in self-preservation mode. Though,
Do you remember 2021 here? What they did in self-preservation?
I
mode?
remember.
I think other teams are, Bears are not the only ones who have done that.
Very, very dangerous. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Thanks.